So we discussed the possibility of Anthony Joshua versus Kubrat Pulev on recent podcasts, but I wanted to put down some individual thoughts now that the fight has been actively confirmed. I've always described Kubrat Pulev as a poor man's Vladimir Klitschko. Stylistically, he's quite similar to Vladimir Klitschko for me. He's a upright fighter, fights from range, throws everything off the jab, accomplished amateur, but he also has the same limitations as Vladimir Klitschko in the sense that he's not the most versatile, he's possibly not the most rounded, he's not capable on the inside, etc. The reason I say he's a poor man's Vladimir Klitschko is because he's smaller than Vladimir. He doesn't have the punch power that Vladimir Klitschko has. And if you actually look at when he fought Vladimir Klitschko, Klitschko made relatively easy work of Pulev and, showed that at the top level, Pulev could get hurt and could get stopped relatively easily. Now, Pulev is a good fighter. For me, he's been in the top 10 of the heavyweight division for many years now. If you look at his resume, and I know he's got some wins that people mock, like Kevin Johnson and Samuel Peter, and understandably so. But if you look at his resume, it isn't actually bad. Wins over the likes of Tony Thompson, Derek Chisora, Ustinov, Dimitrenko. I'm sure there's more names of that as well that I'm just forgetting immediately. But he's got some semi-decent form, Kubrat Pulev. And, you'd be hard-pressed to pick 8 or 9 guys in the heavyweight division with stronger resumes than him. So, I don't think it's a terrible fight based on what was available to Anthony Joshua. Realistically, his next fight after the Vladimir Klitschko fight wasn't going to be a unification, and he obviously had mandatory obligations to take forward. Kubrat Pulev, I believe, is the mandatory for the IBF, who are the organisation who appear strictest in terms of enforcing their mandatories. So, I'm not against the fight whatsoever, and I think Kubrat Pulev does represent a decent class of opponent and a higher class of opponent than a lot of mandatories are. The difficulty is it's just a particularly uninspiring matchup. Kubrat Pulev isn't a personality, he isn't a talker, he's not someone whose style is going to cross over to the casual audience. And I guess a bit beyond that, Kubrat Pulev also, I say he's a poor man's Vladimir Klitschko. What better prep could you have for fighting Kubrat Pulev than fighting Vladimir Klitschko and actually beating Vladimir Klitschko? Joshua has just shown that he could come through the challenge Vladimir Klitschko presented and actually defeat Vladimir Klitschko. What he's doing here is facing a guy who poses a similar threat, but at a lower level. A guy without the power, a guy without the size, a guy without the high class of experience. So, I can see why the consensus is that this is easy work for a guy like Anthony Joshua. Kubrat Pulev is going to stand off Joshua. He's going to try and play chess with him from range. He's going to try and establish his jab against Anthony Joshua. You just wonder if Joshua is going to be able to steamroll Kubrat Pulev. If you look at the kind of fighters who could cause Joshua problems, someone who had a fantastic set of legs and someone who could use the full width of the ring and make Joshua chase, someone who was going to come forward and build pressure and work Joshua out on the inside and hit him to the body up close. If I'm thinking of fighters who are going to cause Joshua problems, that outside fighter, picture the Tyson Fury who fought Vladimir Klitschko. That's a fighter who's going to cause difficulties for Joshua. Picture a peak Jarrell Miller. Now, I'm not saying that Jarrell Miller beats Joshua, but I think he makes Joshua work, and I think he asks a number of telling questions of Joshua. Also, guys with huge one-punch power, punches. Look at Deontay Wilder. Joshua may not be a defensively complete fighter, and if a guy like Wilder caught him, he's got that huge chance with that game-changing power. So there's a few fighters you could make a solid case to beat Anthony Joshua. Is Kubrat Pulev one of them? Probably not. He's going to stand off Joshua and try and jab with him. And Joshua's a bigger, stronger, younger, more athletic guy who, if you let him, will just steamroll you. You've seen what Joshua's like. You even saw it in the Klitschko fight when he decided to put the pedal to the metal and, go into steamroll mode. And when he does that, he is a formidable force of nature, and he can changed the course of the fight in a 20-second rally, and I suspect that's what we'll see relatively early on against Kubrat Pulev. My fear with Pulev is that when Joshua starts that steamrolling process, he will be found out relatively quickly. You know, you look back at that Klitschko fight. Klitschko, he took his knocks early in that fight. He came back, he survived, he hung on. He actually tired Joshua out. He made Joshua expend all his energy and put Joshua in a very weak, fatigued state where he was vulnerable. I just don't see Pulev doing that. I think it takes a certain kind of fighter to survive an onslaught like that. And from what I've seen of Kubrat Pulev, he neither has the style or the substance to do that. So, yeah, whilst I don't hate on the fight, whilst I understand why the fight is happening, and whilst I actually think Kubrat Pulev represents, the top of the heavyweight division, styles make fights, and this style matches up very, very well for Joshua, in my money, and matches up very well for a guy who's just had that invaluable experience of beating a Vladimir Klitschko type fighter. I may well pick Kubrat Pulev to beat Jarrell Miller if they fought. But Jarrell Miller for me would have the higher chance against a Joshua because of the styles make fights statement, if you like. Fight's going to be last week of October. I'm actually away for work the first 3 weeks of October. I'm out of the UK, so I'm pleased that I'll be back to see this fight and to cover the fight on the channel, because there probably will be a few weeks where I'm not making videos in October, but I'll be back for this fight and I'm looking forward to it. There was some discussion on the podcast last night as to whether it will sell out the Millennium Stadium, which I believe has 80,000 seats. I personally think it will. I think Joshua has become a huge draw, and I think people will pay for tickets just to see Joshua. You know, I think he's almost like going to see a rock band at this stage. You know, people just want to see them. It's like something that you want to tick off the list, if you like. And Joshua's got that appeal. I think he will sell out 80,000 seats. People are saying there's no solid undercard at this point. People are saying Pulev isn't a marketable opponent. But Joshua is such a draw. Joshua has crossed over to such an extent. Frankly, I don't see it as a problem. I heard Eddie Hearn once say that he could have sold out Wembley Stadium twice for the Klitschko fight. And whilst Klitschko did bring a lot of name value to that fight, don't get me wrong, I think Joshua was the predominant draw there. So, this fight's happening. This fight is coming to the Millennium Stadium October the 28th. It's a fight that, mandatory obligations have to be taken care of. Fighters who get themselves in mandatory positions deserve to have those opportunities. Whether Kubrat Pulev deserves to be in a mandatory, he lost to Vladimir Klitschko, and subsequent to that, with the exception of Derek Chisora, he's fought subpar opposition. So whether he deserves to be in that mandatory spot is certainly something that's up for debate. You could make a case that other fighters have done more, but he is in that position. How governing bodies choose their mandatories is one of life's great myths, and it will be interesting to see what Pulev does. When he fought Vladimir Klitschko, I kind of felt like he was a little bit out of ideas. He didn't really have a defined game plan. He seemed to plant roots, stay stationary, and try and out-jab the bigger, more powerful man. If he tries to do that against Joshua, yet again, he'll get eaten up and spat out. Let me know your thoughts. What do you make of this fight? Is Kubrat Pulev being underrated here? Could Kubrat Pulev cause a surprise? How do you think the fight will break down stylistically? Or are you with me that when Joshua inevitably goes into steamroll mode, which I've named it, when he actually gets into that territory, will Kubrat Pulev wilt, and will Kubrat Pulev fall relatively swiftly? Interested to discuss, interested to hear your thoughts on this. If you've enjoyed the video, please hit the thumbs up button. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so before. Leave your comments in the section below. You can also catch me on Twitter. My Twitter handle and also my Facebook are in the description box below. So add me as a friend on Facebook. My Twitter handle is @BoxingGossip. So you can check me out there. And please do subscribe. Subscriber numbers have slowed in the recent month or so, probably because I haven't been posting so actively, and probably because we've had the mid-season break where there's been less boxing. But I think I saw on my analytics that over half of the people who watch these videos aren't subscribed to the channel, which, you know, obviously I'd love it if you guys took the time to subscribe. So thanks a lot for tuning in, and yeah, appreciate you guys watching.